if I feel that application of force down, that helps get the arms down here right in front of me.
Unload,
and as that force comes back up, that's where the speed actually gets out to the club head.
All right, so down on the ground here, we've got a couple of rubber discs. Now, essentially, if you don't have these available, these are called force pedals. You could essentially use half a tennis ball, a squash ball or something.
Absolutely, yeah. They're just going to be points of reference where we feel we're applying pressure through the ground.
I suppose the important thing here is that they're spongy. They're spongy.
They are, absolutely. And one's slightly firmer than the other, and that's fine. One's going to allow you to react a little bit faster. But yeah, so they're spongy, they're feedback. Perfect for what we need for this.
Playing a game of Twister on the range.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
All right. So for this reference and in this video, we're going to talk about a player that kind of slides way too much into the golf ball. So using our upper hub and our lower hub as a reference, the upper hub tips way behind, right?
Correct.
And from that, they're almost early extending, goat humping, whatever you want to call it, essentially get thrown out.
Absolutely. And then you have the huge low point issues as well. So a lot of the time when that pelvis is, for a term, sliding and thrusting this way, low point's going to be early. So we're either going to catch the ball heavy or potentially just get it off the bottom grooves and hit the thin shots as well.
Yeah, okay. So using these down on the ground as a reference, there are a lot of, let's say, important components to a golf swing that are not visible. So when the amateur views the golf swing, we can see that there is a movement of the body, the arms and the club. But let's talk about the pressure into the ground. Now, without getting technical, essentially, every powerful motion that you make in life, be it chopping wood, playing any other sport, requires a certain amount of force into the ground, and there would be an effective movement pattern and an inefficient movement pattern.
Absolutely.
And there was a video done by Chris Como years ago, and he actually tried to jump off a diving block and swing a golf club. And you actually can't rotate or move if your feet aren't grounded.
Absolutely.
It's just a floppy goldfish arm swing like this, right? So that was not my most glamorous moment. So when we're setting up to these, okay, let's say a player is sliding way too much. So as a reference, right, let's use the center of my pelvis, just driving so far forward out, we might have a flex left knee for too long, or in fact, it could extend, but a lot later than where it should. We need what's called a lot more vertical force, don't we?
We do. We need vertical force, which will then tie into some rotational torque as well.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
Absolutely.
So let's say I'm in the player. Now, this is your area of expertise, so I want you to kind of run me through this back little disc that we've got here. Is that sitting in the middle of the foot as well?
I like to place it just in front of, so basically just behind the arch of your foot. So not right into the heel, but on the heel side dominant part of the foot.
Okay, and then this one here for a slider.
For a slider, we're going to place this underneath your forefoot. So underneath, basically flush underneath the crease on your shoe.
Okay, so and my foot's going directly on top
Directly on top of it, you got it.
Okay, perfect. So even just like sitting into this, it makes me want to bounce off it, right?
Absolutely,
the trampoline effect. So when we're sitting into this, and let's say that a player was sliding, I'll talk about the sensation that I'm getting. It's that my pressure is kind of shifting to the outside of that disc, almost encourages that ankle to roll. If this player was doing this, what would you recommend?
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to move into the backswing motion where we get the two hubs centered to the top. So how about we do this together? So let's go into that sensation of feeling like the rib cage rotates and extends. We rotate and extend through the pelvis as well. Beautiful. So right now you've loaded some pressure in towards the, towards the trail heel and into the trail hip.
I can feel
now what I want you to do is we're going to really get the sensation of we actually start to apply a vertical force straight down onto the force pedal. So if we Great, fantastic. Okay. Now, as you apply force down, the ground's going to react by allowing us to actually receive force back up, okay? So the lead side starts to extend, the pelvis starts to rotate, okay? So we're actually receiving the force out of the ground by our application of applying force into the ground.
Yeah, so I suppose it's the old adage of like equal and opposite, right? So
yeah.
The more that I push down in this fashion, all of a sudden the ground pushes back, and because of I'd be interested to know your ideas around this, but having a little bit of foot flare almost allows that lead hip to rotate possibly?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, absolutely. We wouldn't want that, so we want to create that internal rotation into that lead leg, and having the foot a little open is actually going to assist you with that.
So as I push down, I can feel that the ground is pushing back. And even if I was relatively square with that foot, I can feel that that's pushing my left hip up. And I suppose it's just the movement of the body is set from that position, which is functional, right? Make sure you're in a great backswing position before you get into doing something like this. But as we're coming down, feeling that I'm pushing up that rotation, and we hear the term covering the ball, compression, staying down through the shot. Talk to us about the benefits of feeling this push and the rotation at the moment of impact. What does this allow us to do?
Yeah, well, what you've got is you're going to have your two hubs a lot more on top of each other. So the upper hub, rib cage, or lower body, pelvis on top of each other, and it actually allows the club delivery to actually be more in an effective position where the hands are on the inside of that trail leg. You haven't had to back the spine up to save the golf shot, save the club delivery. So the application of force is essentially, players will often say to me, okay, the timing, or my timing's out, or my rhythm's out. A lot of the time, timing can be related to where you're applying your force.
Yeah.
So in that sense of our transition from backswing to downswing, it's a really basic sense. I want to feel like I load into the trail heel, and then as opposed to worrying about timing of where my arms are or where anything else is, if I feel that application of force down, that helps get the arms down here right in front of me.
Unload,
and as that force comes back up, that's where the speed actually gets out to the club head. So to generate consistency in low point, consistency in club delivery in terms of speed and club face, the ability to get the force out of the ground and actually rotate and post up in that lead side is huge.
It's amazing, right? So I did some videos yesterday with Brett Rumford, who's one of the greatest short game players there's been out on tour. And he was talking about this in regards to playing bunker shots, right?
100%.
And he was talking about how when he's working on hitting bunker shots, he's almost trying to lift the trail foot up the whole time as he's shifting through. And that allows that body to rotate and extend and keep moving through towards the target. So it's just one of those inherent movement patterns that if you were looking at someone who was throwing a ball, hitting a baseball, anything, there is a certain amount of flexion, pushing in, and then extension, which then translates into that speed.
It sure does, and that the extension phase is huge. And so every segment has a stretch phase, okay, and a shortening phase from one section to the other, whether it be the pelvis to the thorax to the lead arm to the shaft. And allowing the player to push and receive force up creates the extension through the base up and then into the top, and ultimately delivers club head speed.
Yeah, we see that. And if you get a chance, try and find that video of Chris Como making a swing off a diving board. I'm not going to try and attempt it, but essentially it looks like this. Yeah. Not powerful, but when you watch a pro on the range, they bomb it right, or on the course I should say, they absolutely bomb it, and it doesn't look like they're putting any effort in. Is because they're doing what Richard's saying here, is that they are using the ground to their benefit. They're getting the feeling of what it's like to get this vertical force. So relating back to now just the slider, what would you recommend in regards to like a practice strategy that they can employ?
Yeah, absolutely. So practice strategy, we could do this, I guess, in a very, deliberate sense. So if we work to the top of your golf swing, Kerrod, I'd like the feeling for you from here, just to feel like almost like you apply, whether it be the knee directly down on top of the foot. Yeah, good. So you feel almost like a lowering or a flexion into that lead side, and then that allows you then to actually have receive the pressure up. Feel that. Yeah, great. Now allow the lead side to lengthen. Good.
That's beautiful.
Excellent.
That's beautiful.
So yeah, we move from extension back into flexion and then up into extension again.
Okay, great. So a couple of feels like that, then slow swings, kind of blending it together. Would you try to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we want that. I want the player to be very much clued into where they're feeling their application of pressure. So slow motion swings, really getting the sensation of a push and an extension. So the player might almost sometimes feel like they're actually jumping a little bit, okay? And it's okay for that to be the case. We don't want that feeling of just, the old analogy, keep your head down, stay down. Don't do that. Don't stay down, okay? We want to push into the ground and actually allow ourselves to explode out.
We look at the longest players out on tour, and I think Rory, even though he's jacked now, he's one of the the best examples of somewhere where you can see this distinct change of height in the golf swing. From their setup, there's this beautiful extension of the spine, then this nice big recentering and shifting down, and then this huge explosion of power. And pound for pound, even before he was as ripped as he is, he's just like bombing that thing.
100%, absolutely.
Okay, so
just do a few practice swings with this, and then slot a couple down there. Hey,
would you actually hit the golf ball using these pedals?
100%, absolutely. Okay. So I'd make a practice swing, feeling what I want to do, just in that initial transition phase, the push and receive up, and then I'd go into actually hitting full shots with that feeling.
All right, let's give it a shot. Well, I'll tell you what.
That's nice, hey?
I've only hit 2 shots today, and that was definitely way more powerful than the first one.
More speed there, right?
Mate, awesome.
Mate, fantastic. Good job.